Hello, welcome to the Happy Families podcast. Forget gentle parenting and helicopter parenting and tiger parenting. There is a new boss in town, and it goes by 4 letters that would make your grandma blush. In fact, it goes by 4 letters that I would even be uncomfortable with, so I'm going to change the name already. It's called FAFO, F-A-F-O parenting. That's the latest parenting style on the block. The F stands for something that I'm not going to say, so I'm going to say fuss around and find out. Fuss around and find out for those who are keeping score at home. And yes, this parenting style means that parents are literally throwing their kids in ponds, making them buy their own underwear, letting them walk home in thunderstorms. It's a tough love comeback. Is it what parents the world over have been waiting for? Or has the pendulum swung so far from gentle parenting that we've landed in the middle of Lord of the Flies? Stick around, because today we're diving deep into why this viral parenting trend might be setting our kids up for exactly the opposite of what we think we're teaching them. The Wall Street Journal is making a noise about FAFO parenting. We'll talk about it next. Stay with us.
The newest trend on TikTok is FAFO parenting, an acronym for F around and find out. What this trend is talking about is the cause and effect method. FAFO parenting is when a mom or dad doesn't come in for the save, but rather lets life teach the lesson.
Hello, thanks for joining us on the Happy Families podcast, Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast, real parenting solutions every single day. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, parents of 6 kids, and today, FAFO parenting under the spotlight. Never had a FAFO parent on parental guidance, Kylie?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether or not they've all been to English classes. Is this like...
Well, you've got fly in, fly out. That's FIFO, and this is FAFO. Fuss around and find out. It's like when you look at your child and you say, you really want to do that? Fuss around and find out. That's the concept behind FAFO parenting.
It just...
Think of it as the end.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, right?
No. Well, I mean, this is what social media does, though. It invents new parenting styles. I'm looking at it as the antithesis of every gentle parenting Instagram post you've ever seen. So gentle parenting, like Dr. Becky Kennedy says, validate feelings, offer choices. And FAFO parents say, make a choice, live with it. Okay? You've eaten a bad burrito, too bad. That's what you decided to eat. The Wall Street Journal's Ellen Gammerman, over the last, and we'll link to this in the show notes. You will need a subscription to get past the paywall, but she has profiled parents who are embracing what they call natural consequences. It's not actually natural consequences. Let me be clear about that, but that's what they're calling it. They've embraced it with a vengeance. We're talking about a mum who threw her 13-year-old in a pond when he sprayed her with a water gun after he was told not to. We're talking about a child psychologist. Pains me to say this one, a child psychologist who made her 8-year-old buy his own replacement underwear with his allowance after he had some bathroom accidents and didn't seem to be learning. I might just add, in brackets, turns out that it was a medical issue. She apologised, but it highlights a concern that I have with FAFO parenting that we'll address a little bit later. Basically, FAFO parenting represents this really dramatic shift that I think we've had. Gentle parenting has dominated the parenting discourse for the last decade, and my take on this is gentle parenting is just too hard, and that's why so many people complain about it so much. But FAFO parenting is just this dramatic shift from where we've been to where I know a lot of parents are feeling like they're supposed to go because gentle parenting is so hard.
This just feels like, to me, a bit of a knee-jerk reaction because parents are struggling to be emotionally regulated.
Yeah, and maybe there's too many of their parents who are saying enough of this namby-pamby stuff. So let's be clear, I'm not a gentle parenting advocate. I don't like gentle parenting because I think it is too hard. That's why I talk about need supportive parenting. My approach is completely different to gentle parenting. There's crossover, but it's not the same thing. But this is just a knee-jerk reaction with people saying, oh, stuff it. The kids just need to do as they're told or they'll suffer the consequences.
Yeah, and it feels like, to me, in so many regards, we're taking 10 steps backwards in our efforts to help our children recognise not only their own humanity, but the humanity of everyone else around them.
Yeah, so basically connection before correction is out. Emotion regulation, we're just not that bothered about it anymore. You regulate your own stupid emotions if you want to be that silly. There's this, it's quite confronting when you think about it. FAFO parents, I would say, are just saying, we tried being gentle. Our kids walked all over us. So now it's time for some old school reality checks. That's how I'm seeing it. The subtext really, gentle parenting has created a generation of soft and entitled kids who can't handle the real world, and FAFO is the pendulum swim, arriving coincidentally around about the same time that Donald Trump becomes president. Just putting that out there. But here's where it gets interesting to me, and I think we need to dig deeper than the viral TikTok takes. I want us to investigate arguments both for and against FAFO, fuss around and find out parenting. So I've put together a list of 3 reasons that people might be for it, and then 3 reasons that I'm against it and what to do instead.
Well, let's dig in. What's number 1?
All right, I have my shovel. Let's start digging. The case for FAFO parenting, and this is hard for me because I don't love it. I have some really big reservations, but this, I think, is the strongest argument of all. Real-world preparation. Real-world preparation. FAFO parents do have a point when they say that the world is not a kind place, the world is not a gentle place. Your boss is not going to validate your feelings when you miss a deadline or when you don't show up for work. The bank isn't going to have empathy for you because you can't make your mortgage payment. So the FAFO line is basically, I'm doing my kids a favor by teaching them very, very early that actions have consequences, period. Like no cushioning, no do-overs, no participation medals for everybody. Really simple logic. Learn the lessons at home where the stakes are low. Much better to do that than out in the real world where the stakes are significantly higher and the pain is a lot greater.
This just is insane to me, what you're saying.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying this is the argument. Yeah.
But the argument just sits so uncomfortably with me because just because the rest of the world is harsh and horrible, does that mean that I have to follow the crowd and join in? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I want to be a soft and safe place for my kid. The rest of the world isn't. They're not invested in my child the way I am. So why would I want to be anything other than a safe place for my kid?
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, and this is coming up in part 2, but this is a misunderstanding about how boundaries work and how discipline is really about problem solving. I've been saying that ad nauseum for years now, but if we can just get in our heads that discipline is not about hurting our kids to teach them a lesson, discipline is about problem solving so that they can discover lessons.
I remember when I got my very first job and my boss was awful to me. She was really, really awful to me until I had a medical challenge, and she stepped up to the plate and she was amazing. And we got to have some really good conversations. And at that point, she actually shared with me that her boss before her had been awful to her, and she just assumed that that's what a boss did.
One of my first bosses, I actually had an exercise book, and I used to take notes of all the things to not do when I was a boss, because he was just awful.
Yeah.
He was awful. So being the soft place at home will definitely help, I think. Anyway, that's the first argument. There was a tough place. The kids need to learn it where the stakes are low at home.
Sorry, I'm just putting holes in your arguments. But
number
2.
This is going to be a long podcast if you keep doing this. All right, the second argument that I think that FAFO parents are making is that FAFO parenting requires clear boundaries and expectations. There is something refreshingly straightforward about FAFO parenting because you don't have to have any complex emotional negotiations. You don't have to go through the endless explanations. There's no bargaining with tiny terrorists. The rules are really clear. Immediate consequences. Everyone knows where they stand. And for parents who are exhausted, I watch gentle parents on social media that are sort of making the argument this is really hard. And I'm watching them, even on parental guidance, and I'm going, seriously, some parents, they make it look so hard.
Well, there are no boundaries, though.
That's right. Or they're being so soft that they're not effective and doing boundaries the way that they need to be done. And so FAFO parenting offers this simplicity. I told you what would happen. You chose to test it out. Here we are.
Yeah, for me, I think about this idea.
You're going to argue about it again, aren't you?
I am.
This is just the argument for it. I'm not saying it's
right. because we want to evaluate our performance as a parent based on where our child is as a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or even a 15-year-old. And we don't realize that we're in this for the long game. This is a long game. And the experiences that we're having with our children, they are really messy. They're so messy. But it's what happens later.
Yep.
It's actually what happens when they leave the house that makes the difference.
You're going to enjoy the second half of this podcast if we ever get to it.
Okay. Number 3.
I don't want to rush you, but I know, this is a podcast for time poor parents who just want answers. The third and final.
They want good answers. You're not giving me anything good yet.
Well, I'm just saying this is what FAFO parents would be arguing is why this works. The third one is that it's going to be a resilience builder, believe it or not. In fact, some people in the Wall Street Journal said to the author of this article, FAFO advocates argue that constantly protecting kids from discomfort creates fragility, not strength. When everything is cushion and consequence-free, how do children learn to bounce back from setbacks? So basically, these parents believe that if you can experience what they're going to call manageable hardships, like getting soaked in the rain because you didn't bring your coat, or going hungry till breakfast because you refused to have dinner, builds genuine grit and problem-solving skills.
Yeah, so does a kid that gets up at 2:30 in the morning to go and muck out stables and do hard work.
Yes. Yeah.
And they do it autonomously.
I would also add that the evidence doesn't necessarily support that. It's good for kids to have manageable, age-appropriate difficulties. That is true. But I think that they're over-interpreting what the research tells us. So after the break, let's make you feel better about life. I'll tell you why I don't like FAFO parenting. You've already explained why you don't, and why I don't think you should adopt it. Okay, Kylie, the case against FAFO parenting, even though it is the new trend on TikTok and the Wall Street Journal is making a big deal about it, and there are a lot of parents who are saying, finally, we don't have to keep on bubble wrapping our kids.
To me, again, this just says more about where they are in their emotional journey than it is about the kids.
Don't you wish? I mean, we've got 6 kids. We have been parenting for nearly 26 years. Nearly 26 years. Don't you just wish, knowing what we know now, that we could go back and start again? Like if you could implant the stuff that we've learned into our brains as 20-something-year-olds having our first child, we would do it so differently. Let's talk about the case against FAFO parenting. The first of 3 big reasons that I don't like it and why I don't think you should adopt it as follow. The first one is this. It damages the parent-child relationship.
Well, my daughter rings me. She's sad. She's upset. She's having a hard time. And I tell her, suck it up, princess.
She's not ringing you next time.
She's not going to ring me.
It's exactly
She's not
right.
having those conversations with me ever again.
And this is what I think FAFO parents might be missing. Your relationship with your kids is the foundation for everything else that happens in their life. And if you want them to be resilient, the best way for them, resilience is actually about relationships first. When relationships are present, resilience is the natural extension of good relationships because you've got the soft space to fall back onto.
You know someone's got your back. You know someone's
Right.
championing you on, even when it's hard and it looks messy and you're making a big mess of it.
So when you become the opposite, the toughen up princess, the enforcer of harsh consequences rather than a guide or a support system like you described a second ago, what you do is you change that dynamic and kids start seeing you as an adversary that they have to outmaneuver instead of an ally that they can trust. And once that trust is broken, good luck getting them to talk to you or come to you when they're actually in trouble. Because trust, right, believing that you're going to act in my best interest. If I say, suck it up, princess, I'm not acting in that kid's best interest. They know it. They're not going to talk to me again.
And they're going to go anywhere to find a soft place, anywhere.
Yeah.
So that could be a school friend who's not good for them. It could be another parent. It could be another adult. You have no influence over them once you've lost that relationship.
Spot on. Exactly right.
What's number 2?
All right. The second reason that I think that we should not adopt this is that it confuses, as I said in the first half of this conversation, it confuses punishment with learning, boundaries. It just muddles it all up. So making your child go without lunch because they forgot their lunchbox, that doesn't teach them lunch preparedness. It teaches that mum and dad are going to let bad things happen to prove a point. I mean, if this is an ongoing issue, then we need to solve the problem. I'm not suggesting that it's not a problem, and I'm not suggesting that we should keep on running lunchboxes up to school. Or if your child doesn't remember their raincoat or their umbrella and you make them walk home in the thunderstorm, it doesn't teach weather preparedness. They're not going to start checking the schedule, the forecast every day to make sure they've got the right weather gear. It just teaches them, parents will make them suffer if they make decisions that just to prove a point. Solving the problem means that we have conversations. And I think this is the central thing. There's a big difference between a natural consequence and manufactured hardship. Real learning, it will happen through understanding cause and effect, but I don't think that real learning happens through power plays. And FAFO seems to skip past the learning and go straight to the suffering.
Ouch, that hurts. What's number 3?
All right, the last one is that it creates compliance, not character. Like, we want to raise kids with character. We want to raise kids who are going to have integrity and empathy and kindness and
no, we don't.
And be on the lookout.
Based on their model, we don't.
Okay, so FAFO parenting is about producing obedient children. But obedience is not the same as character. Obedience is not the same as respect. Obedience is not the same as good judgment. When kids behave primarily so that they can avoid punishment, they're not going to develop an internal moral compass. This is something that Alfie Kohn writes about beautifully and eloquently in Punished by Rewards. Rewards and punishments undermine moral development because kids aren't doing things for the right reasons. They're doing things because they want to get the goodie or avoid the nasty stuff. They just don't want to get caught. They're developing smarter strategies, sweeping stuff under the rug, hiding behind the couch so they don't get caught. The moment that surveillance stops, all bets are off. We want kids who are going to make good choices because they understand why those choices matter, not because they're afraid of what happens if they don't. So, in a nutshell, not a fan of FAFO parenting. I don't think the Wall Street Journal should have given it nearly the amount of air that it got, and I'm disappointed that it's showing up on so many parenting blogs and so many Instagram stories because it's a bad parenting style and it doesn't support kids' basic psychological needs.
Well, I guess that's a wrap.
Okay, the Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides admin, research, and other support. If you'd like more information about FAFO parenting, you can jump into our show notes. You'll find all the details there. We're going to turn this one into a blog as well and pop it up on our Happy Families website. So if you would like more information and resources to make your family happier, visit happyfamilies.com.au. And if this will help somebody else make their family happier, please share it.